Okay, so we are now trying an episode of Blockchat live. This is the first one. We're here for episode number 7 of Blockchat Radio, streaming live. So we've brought in the communities from the Crypto Bazaar and Bit Boys and Bit Girls, BBAG, online as well, joining us for this live episode with Saeed, Hareb Darmaki. This is a very interesting episode, actually. Really looking forward to this. Going to be speaking about the proliferation of blockchain technologies in the UAE. And so Saeed is the co-founder of the Alphabit Digital Currency Fund, one of the largest, most influential global crypto investment funds in the world, based over in Dubai. I won't go too deep into the introduction. I'll let Saeed introduce himself more elaborately. And Saeed, how was that for you?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for having me, Hasani. I've been looking forward to this episode since we first spoke a couple of weeks ago. Maybe I'll just give a brief background on myself. So I used to work for Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, which is one of the largest global sovereign wealth funds. So I have a traditional investment background. I was working there for 9 years. 2 years ago, the CEO of Alphabet Fund, Liam Robertson, who's been an old friend of mine, I've known him for many years. He called me out. He called me out of the blue in January 2017. And he broached the idea of setting up a regulated crypto fund. At that time, I had no idea what cryptocurrencies were. I probably only heard about Bitcoin. So I asked him if I could do some research on Bitcoin and on cryptocurrencies and blockchain in general. Then when I looked into Bitcoin and looked into crypto, I soon realized it was a no-brainer for me because the basics of the foundations of it were the opposite of the monetary system, which, as we know, is pretty flawed, and that can be evident from the level of debt that a lot of sovereign countries have at the moment, including the United States of America. So it really appealed to me right from the beginning. So I decided, okay, I called him back and I said, let's go for it. Let's get it set up. Obviously, because it was a regulated fund, and the regulator has strict requirements. So it took us around six months to get the fund operational. During that 6 months, I personally invested in Bitcoin, and I personally invested in several blockchain startups. At the time, Bitcoin was around $1,000, which was a great time to enter. Then the startups that I invested in, they listed. Once they listed, I started trading cryptocurrencies. It took about 3 months for those projects to list. And in that 3 months, I was doing daily research and getting as much knowledge as I can on cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, especially with the help of the Alphabet founders and their network that they've had for many years. So after I started trading, then the fund got operational in June 2017. So I got busy running the fund along with Liam and Andrew Iverson, the COO, and Mohammed Tanweer, the operations manager. We got the team together and we started running the fund. The fund's been successful, and the return since inception to the end of December was around 235%. We were lucky in that we started in June 2017 before January 2018. As you know, until now, the market's been on a steady decline, but I think we're pretty much near the bottom here now. Then I continued investing in many startups as the fund was operational, and towards the end of 2017, a lot of project founders started approaching me to help them with their startups. So I started advising a lot of startups as well, which was a great experience. And then in 2018, I got involved with the Binary Financial, which is a large OTC brokerage, OTC desk. That was a great experience working with Hareb, the managing partner. But I left the beginning of this year to focus on several projects that I started working on for a year now. And then I started getting involved with some brokering OTC deals in that 2018. And I obviously expanded my knowledge, expanded my network throughout that time. And then now that I've got all this knowledge and all this experience, I really want to focus on developing awareness and developing knowledge here in the UAE, because it's still pretty new here, and there's not that much interest as with other countries like the US or Europe or Asia. And it's still a developing country as well. So embracing technology is something that the government here has been very keen on. And, the ruling family here since the forefather, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, and the current ruler, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, they've all been very forward-thinking visionaries, and they've always looked to manage the resources that we have here as best as we can, which is one of the reasons why Abu Dhabi Investment Authority started in the first place, to manage the excess reserves from the oil revenue so that it can be maintained for future generations. So I've always wanted to, help the country because it's given me so much, and I want to give back to the country. So I want to be as involved as possible with developing, blockchain technology here locally, and making sure as many local people here embrace the technology, and as many local businesses here use the technology as well. The government's been very active in making sure that blockchain technology is used, so much so that the Dubai government has actually said on numerous occasions publicly that they want to have most of the government services on blockchain by 2021. I think maybe that they've moved that on an extra year from here, but that's always the plan. But I want to be as active as I can, and help out the country as much as I can with gaining as much cryptocurrency exposure and knowledge as possible.
Well, yeah, that's really, really interesting. And just looking through your LinkedIn here, you obviously are working on a number of projects. You're working on Images, Connect SA, Crowdforce, Super, BTU Protocol, the Aclid Project, Convoy, Fracture Labs, Clear Technologies, and BQT.io. And it appears as though you're a very, very busy guy. And I think being
Absolutely.
in the culture in that environment, it seems as though there's a real strong culture in Dubai and the UAE of innovation and growth. So that's really, really exciting. And I can see why you're playing such a key role in that. It seems very, very exciting.
Absolutely.
Could you speak a little bit about the projects you're working on? Could you give me a little bit of a background of a couple of your key projects that you're supporting right now?
So the most important project that I'm working on right now, and I've been working on it for more than a year now, is actually establishing a regulated cryptocurrency exchange in Abu Dhabi within the Abu Dhabi Global Market jurisdiction. We're very advanced at the moment. We're in the middle of raising capital for the project. We're just waiting on the regulator to issue the cryptocurrency exchange license. So we're very much ready to go. We're very ready to launch whenever the regulator is happy with the business and how we're going to run the business, and also once we've done extensive testing with the regulator. So that's a project that's very, very close to me, and that will actually be very good for the economy and actually develop the ecosystem and infrastructure here, cryptocurrency wise. So that's one of the main projects I'm working on now. There is another project that I'm working on, another startup that we're going to set up in Dubai. I'm going to partner with a very, very close friend of mine that I've known for a couple of years. He's been working with me at the Alphabet and Binary Financial and a couple of other projects, Jason King. we're setting up a company that's going to help local businesses here introduce blockchain technology to help them help their business become more efficient. So we're going to be advising local companies here on utilizing blockchain technology for their business. Obviously, not all businesses need blockchain technology, but we'll help these companies identify if they actually do need blockchain technology to help reduce their costs and increase benefits for them and increase efficiency. So that's another project that I'm going to be starting very soon as well.
That sounds very, very exciting. Yeah, that's really exciting indeed. And it's really interesting how you're able to really support with your understanding of blockchain and the space and the network and the people, really being able to support the development of the UAE's blockchain future seems really, really powerful. And yeah, I think in particular, when it comes down to the, storefront level, business level, that's when we're really going to see blockchain take off. And
yes.
What kind of challenges are you encountering right now in terms of making blockchain more well known in the UAE? Because the people there, do they know, obviously you know a lot about it, but do people there have an awareness of blockchain and aware of the benefits?
I think the people here are more aware of cryptocurrencies in general and trading cryptocurrencies. I don't think their knowledge is very deep into actual blockchain technology itself, because it's very complicated to actually know the ins and outs of the technology itself. But there is one of my friends. His name is Dr. Marwan Al-Zaraoni. He's the CEO of Dubai Blockchain Center, which is actually offering educational courses for the local population to actually learn about blockchain technology and learn about cryptocurrencies and have a better understanding about it. But I think the main challenge is raising of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies in the UAE, and just to shift that mentality of actually making it like, instead of making it just like a short-term quick buck play, making it a long-term sustained technology that that can actually benefit the economy as well, not just personal people, not just individuals. It can benefit the government, it can benefit businesses here as well, it can benefit corporations. So that's the main objective, and that's you can see all the large banks and the large corporations globally investing in blockchain technology and their own private blockchain technology solutions. So this is very much technology that's here to stay. And the benefits are, they've been well documented. I think also another challenge is that the technology is still very much developing. I think it's still in the very early stages of development, and there's still a lot of potential that needs to be unlocked before all these local businesses and global businesses start embracing it fully. And until wide adoption happens, it needs to be very scalable and much more developed as well to be able to do that.
That's true. And in the race, if you will, the race towards decentralization, the race towards implementation of DLT blockchain, for example, where do you think the UAE stands in that race globally? Is Dubai, for example, ahead or behind of China or other nations in terms of using technology?
I think just like with the general economy, I think it's the UAE is very much well behind China and the USA and Europe. It's still very much a developing economy. It's still a developing country. We have to be pragmatic and realistic about that. But the rate at which we're going, I think it's starting to accelerate here, and I expect it to grow exponentially. So we're far behind the rate at the moment as such, but I believe that especially with the government support and also what with the offshore regulator in the ADGM and onshore regulator in ESCA, which is the Emirates Securities and Commodities Authority, they've announced that they will actually issue a framework and regulation around cryptocurrencies and ICOs and STOs in the next few months. Once that comes out, I think that will encourage people and businesses to, to actually say, okay, look, the government's actually legally approved this, so this must be something that we actually need to look into. So that will help accelerate awareness, and also motivate people, individuals, and companies here to embrace the technology.
That's great. That's really good, because I think fundamentally it comes down to regulation and legal frameworks to actually facilitate the implementation of a new way of doing business, essentially. So yeah, I think when those are in place, we will definitely see the growth of technology over there in terms of blockchain and its wider proliferation. So, and I think as well, obviously, you go to a lot of conferences, because I always see you looking, I always see you on LinkedIn, for example, at events and conferences, speaking to interesting people. And I wondered, who do you think are the key thought leaders right now, apart from yourself, who are really flying the flag for blockchain tech?
I think if you're asking me about Emiratis, such as myself, I think there's myself and Dr. Marwan Zarhouni, who's actually been involved in blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies for several years now. I think apart from us two, I can't think of any other Emirati that's as active or has been involved for as long a period of time. One of my friends, Mohammed Mahfoud, he's been involved in the last sort of year and a half, and he set up a company here to actually advise blockchain startups that want to raise funds using STOs. So he's another player, another Emirati that's doing some good work in the background to get more awareness here. But we have Consensus here. Smart Dubai is working with Consensus, and there's a lot of foreign people and companies getting involved here. So that's very much there. But in terms of Emiratis, so that's the main aim of myself going to attend these conferences and speak at these conferences and events, is to actually show the local population and the Emiratis here. You can see an Emirati who's talking about this and who's very much active in it and who's devoted his career to this now. Because I left Abu Dhabi Investment Authority end of June last year to focus on this. So if they see somebody actively working on it and believing in it, then that will motivate them to actually maybe think twice and maybe actually try to put some time into it as well, and maybe start up a business related to this as well.
Definitely. I think awareness always plays a huge role in adoption. And I think that if there are people that are putting a lot of effort into raising awareness and showing the benefits and helping, clear the path for the implementation of this, it definitely would be a benefit to the economy and to everyone else involved. And, which companies have you seen that have been particularly active in the space, from outside of the UAE, that have been active inside of the UAE? Have there been any foreign companies in particular that have taken a real stand and cleared the way or positioned themselves as being active in this space?
I think in the UAE itself, apart from the government, there's been several banks that have used blockchain technology and are pioneering and piloting studies on cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. For example, there's Emirates MBD. They're using blockchain technology for their internal check clearing system, check monitoring system. They're using that actively at the moment. There was Al Hilal Bank, which is piloting a Sukuk instrument using blockchain technology. There are several foreign companies that have set up here to try and develop blockchain technology here as well, amongst one of them being Consensus, as I said before. Globally, outside of the UAE, there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of large banks. There's a lot of large corporations like IBM and large banks and corporations that are working on blockchain technology at the moment. But within the UAE, you're slowly starting to see more companies and banks and corporations here looking at it and actually embracing the technology.
That's very interesting. And I think as well, just a slight change of gear. I just wanted to understand, from a kind of entrepreneurial point of view, what does it actually take to go about building an investment fund in crypto? Because hasn't been done before. So how do you go about just starting up a cryptocurrency investment fund? What does it look like?
Well, for myself and the partners here in the UAE, it was definitely something new, and we didn't know what to expect. There were many challenges along the way, but we worked hard night and day to find a solution and find a way to actually get set up. We had a lot of help from Delma Capital, which is actually our investment manager. We're the investment advisor, and through Delma Capital, because Delma Capital is regulated by the Dubai Financial Services Authority, they make sure that we adhere to the strict requirements of the regulator here. So they helped us out a lot with, with finding the fund administrator, with finding legal support, compliance support. So that was a big help as well. But we had to find them. They weren't at the time. They weren't even looking at crypto. So we had to approach them and see if they were open to the idea. The CEO Zachary Jafarti was very open-minded, and he listened us out. He heard us out, and he said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We'll support you." So yeah, it took time to get started. We had to, I had to go through my private network that I already had in the traditional investment space to find the right people to connect with to help us get set up. But but right now, I mean, if anybody wanted to do it here, then it's much easier. I know there's a fund called Q2Q Capital, which is run by Mohammed Yazilhark. He's set up a fund here as well. I don't know what administrator he's using or how he went about setting it up, but there are a couple of funds set up here, and I think now that we're all both set up here, I think it's easier for other players to come in if they want to.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's obviously a clear first mover advantage, but obviously the first mover has to do all the really hard work as well.
For sure.
So
yes,
that's great,
yes.
And I think that I think once that path is now cleared and you've been able to kind of pave the way for that, I think we're bound to see many more funds popping up and interesting ventures coming about in the UAE if it's clear that that's an environment where innovation is really thought carefully about and fostered, and it actually is inspired. So that's great. And I think as well, just thinking about how innovation is going over there definitely needs to be, I think, more in the way of awareness to let people know that this is the place to come for blockchain innovation, because there's obviously been a big push for Malta. There's also now talk about Estonia as well.
Yes.
And where do you think, compared to Estonia, compared to Malta, where do you think that the UAE is in that? And is there collaboration between Malta and Estonia, the so-called blockchain hubs, or is it a very different environment completely?
So the ADGM has come up with a framework and regulation around cryptocurrencies and ICOs in general. The thing is, the ADGM is an offshore jurisdiction regulator. So once we get the regulation from ESCA, which is the onshore regulator, then that will mean that the central bank is behind that, and also that the local banks would be behind that, so that it will be easier to service blockchain and cryptocurrency companies based here. I think the framework is established. So in that regard, we're on a par with Malta and Estonia. So we have a clear strategy of how we want to approach regulation around crypto and blockchain in general. And I think in the next 3 to 6 months, there's going to be a lot of activity and there's going to be a lot of media coverage.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, because Yeah, I think that Malta obviously was, hailed as being the blockchain hub, but it definitely looks as a shift towards Estonia and a shift towards Dubai as well. So we'll see how that plays out. And just looking in the group chat here, there's a question that's came up, and Pre Mindra has asked, when can we expect the mass adoption of blockchain in the region?
I think mass adoption, as with the case globally, I think for mass adoption to happen, that doesn't just rely on regulation and the state of the economy here locally. I think that relies on the actual blockchain technology, and if it's actually become to a point where it's scalable and much easier to use as well, I think that's when you're going to see mass adoption. Regulation will help in some ways to get there, but ultimately, if the technology isn't scalable enough, if it isn't easy enough to use, then there's not going to be use by smaller and medium-sized businesses. I mean, yes, the larger businesses and governments are looking at it, but to have mass adoption, you need vendors and shops, retail shops in the street. You need small businesses to actually adopt the technology and actually to be able to start being using cryptocurrencies in their everyday life. So I think for mass adoption, I think we're looking at between 5 to 10 years. Obviously, it's starting to grow now, but I think we're still very much in the early stages here, and I think we need to be a bit more patient and a bit more realistic. I think if you need an analogy, then you think of it this way. I think we are at the point here where we were with the internet when we were connecting to the internet using dial-up modems. And just think about how slow the internet was back then. So we're very much at that stage here nowadays. So I think another 5 to 10 years would be where you'd see really, really adoption globally for cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think it will sure take time to make that a reality, and I wonder whether we'll still see the likes of Ethereum and Dash and Bitcoin in 5 to 10 years' time, or if there'll be a new iteration of these cryptocurrencies. And have there been any standout projects in terms of cryptocurrency that you've seen as being maybe the next step towards day-to-day cryptocurrency use?
I think there's a lot of potentially projects that can have that potential, but I think they're very much as the case with the technology, they're limited with how advanced the technology is. And at this stage, I don't think we're at the level yet where there will be a project that can actually overtake Bitcoin or Ethereum in the short term. Maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, there might be a project that can maybe start to take away some of the dominance that Bitcoin has. But I think Bitcoin is going to be dominant for the next 3 to 5 years at the very least.
Oh, really? Yeah, because when speaking to people about Bitcoin in particular, with the slow transaction rate, if I remember correctly, it's like 14 transactions per second or something.
Yeah.
There are a couple of projects now that are boasting up to 65,000 transactions per second as well. So I think that's the reason why we're seeing, there's talk about the fall of Bitcoin, the removal of Bitcoin from the ecosystem. But obviously the issue right now is that many of the coins that are popping up are being traded against Bitcoin. So Bitcoin does provide this gold standard for the ecosystem of cryptocurrency coins. But I think in terms of maybe day-to-day use, we may not see Bitcoin being used for, buying consumable items like bread and milk, because of the transaction speed being so slow compared to other coins and cryptocurrencies. So yeah, I wonder what that looks like for the industry, and I wonder if we'll see a project pop up like that.
I think also you shouldn't underestimate the actual developers of Bitcoin, because there's a lot of developers that work on Bitcoin, and you can't also underestimate Lightning Network, because that has the potential of actually pushing Bitcoin to the next level, and that's still very much a new aspect of Bitcoin. So I think it's yet to be seen what's going to happen, but I don't think I see a more stronger network, more widely used network than Bitcoin, and I don't think that it's going to be easy to displace Bitcoin as the benchmark of cryptocurrencies as well.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting, and yeah, it's another question in the group chat here. Is asking, do you believe we can have smart contracts on Bitcoin? I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a project called Rootstock RSK protocol that's going to be developing, being able to use smart contracts on the Bitcoin network. So that's very much still in development phase, and that is something that we may well see in the short term as well. So there is that as well that's going to come up soon.
Yeah, that could be very, very interesting as well.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I really think that it could be, as you said, 5 to 10 years before we really start seeing a widespread implementation for that. But I think as well, as I mentioned before, there is that essence of first mover advantage. And if somebody can figure out how to do it properly, there obviously is a huge reward to be gained as a result of that. And yeah, I wanted to ask about some of your projects now, because there's quite a lot of them on here that look very interesting. Could I pick out a couple of projects in particular and ask you about them? Is that okay?
Sure. Go ahead.
So could you speak a little bit about what Convoy is with a K?
Convoy Ventures is a tokenized fund for that invests in esports and gaming startups. So it's very much like a VC fund that's investing in esports and gaming startups. Doesn't necessarily have to be esports and gaming startups that utilize blockchain technology as such, but the essence of it is investing in startups that are focused on esports and gaming, because I don't know if you're aware, but the esports industry is exploding at the moment. There's a lot of interest in esports games and esports competitions out there globally. So that's why they've decided to focus on that market.
That's really interesting. And also looking at the esports and games and online media. I see you also working on something called Fracture Labs, which also appears to be a computer games project.
So Fracture Labs is the company behind a new, still in development game that's actually built on blockchain. So it's a game it's a blockchain powered game, which is called Decimated. You can look it up on decimated.net. So I'm advising Fracture Labs, and they're very much advanced with blockchain technology, and they're trying to get a game established using blockchain in that regard.
Wow, that's really exciting. That's really exciting indeed. And so, looking at Clear Technologies with a Q, Clear Technologies. That's great. I love that.
Clear Technologies. Clear protocol. They're developing a protocol that will, give the online, give the gambling, online gaming casinos and gambling websites and etc. The ability to, be able to verify that actually, like for example, if it's card games, that the shuffling is actually very random and it's very fair to the actual people, the customers. So it's a protocol that's designed to give transparency and peace of mind for people who use online gambling websites that everything is in good order and there's no collusion or there's no foul play there.
Wow, that's really interesting. Wow, that's really interesting indeed. And yeah, and now I'm looking on Super with a V, so SVPR. What's Super?
So Super is kind of a social interactions platform built on blockchain that they're trying to get people to get into social relationships, but avoiding it all being purely online, and encouraging people to go out there and meet other people live instead of online. So the basic idea of it is that instead of the matching system that you find in a lot of these social platforms, is actually post a live video of yourself, and that's authenticated and verified on blockchain that it's actually you and it's actually genuine. And you posting it on the platform, and then somebody on the other side watching that video and then posting a video back in return. And then if you match that way, then you can sort of go ahead and meet up in real life. And so that's the kind of basis around it. And the team behind it, they've actually been in the social relationships platforms for many years, and they see the problems and the issues that come up with that. So they've found out that actually using blockchain can be very beneficial and solves a lot of problems.
Wow, that's really, really exciting. That's quite interesting. Absolutely. Indeed. And yeah, wow. And I just, I'm pretty stunned by the sheer diversity of projects that you're working on.
Yeah.
It's a really, really diverse bunch.
You need to diversify as an investor, so that's something I learned from the traditional investment space. So I try to apply that here in in crypto assets as well as a new asset class. So the more exposure you have to different areas, the less overall risk you're exposed to. So it's a good way of spreading out your risk.
It's true. And speaking of spreading out, it appears that you are quite global with your investments. Looking at the Aclid project here, that appears to be over in Florida, the US. What's that in particular? What's that?
So the Aclid project, the founder of Aclid project has a business as a tequila company, a tequila selling business. And she's seen the problems that come about with ID verification, etc., and fraudulent use of IDs or like fake IDs being used. So she's tried to get to use blockchain to actually make it so that your ID is verified, and it's very much a cash-based business as well. So she's trying to get it away from cash-based payments into crypto payments. But she's actually also pivoted at the moment to being a security token issuance platform as well. So that's something that she's working on as well.
How does that work? How do you pivot from selling tequila to doing an STO and becoming a securities? Wow.
Well, because originally, at the time she was doing the ICO for Aclid, it was at the time where the market was really bottoming down.
Yeah, bear market.
So she quickly spotted that ICOs were no longer going to be very much in demand. So she was looking at actually doing an STO instead of an ICO, and then she actually saw the opportunity that actually this STO space is going to be big in the future, and is only just starting. So she thought that and she had a lot of contacts who were involved with digital securities, anyways, and issuing of traditional securities. So she thought she would she'd actually look into a security token issuance platform as well, and use that to raise capital for her own project and then for other projects as well.
Well, that's really, really interesting. And I really want to ask you about STOs and ICOs, but I want to just carry on with a bit more about your projects that you're working on. I want to ask you now about Imagize.
Imagize, the original idea is, it's basically tries to solve the problems with buying clothes and footwear online, whereby you know your size roughly, etc. But every different supplier has a different way of measurements and sizes, etc. So they're trying to use they're trying to get customers to go into these centers that they're going to create, whereby it actually scans your, for example, scans your feet and tries to get a perfect fit to your feet, so that you can get the best fitting shoes. And then you just have to do it once, basically, and then try to get all the vendors to actually, get subscribed to the system, so that globally, when you order online, then you know that the size that you order based on this system is going to fit you like 99% accurately fit you, so you don't have the issues of returned items, etc. And they'll start that off initially with footwear, and then they'll expand it into clothing as well. So that's the idea of that project.
That's a very lofty, very lofty,
very
ambition.
Ambitious. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. And can I ask you about Crowdforce?
Crowdforce is a project based out of Abuja in Nigeria, and their main aim is to try and get mass adoption of using cryptocurrencies in Africa, because, as you know, it's very, very micro-based, cash-based economy. So they're trying to utilize cryptocurrencies to get the general population in Africa to use cryptocurrencies. So it's one that I wasn't looking at the actual economic outcomes or the economic returns from. It was actually one that I was looking at in terms of mass adoption in Africa and the ecosystem for cryptocurrencies in general.
Well, yeah, because I think in terms of countries that would benefit from blockchain technologies, Africa is one of the countries that really would benefit from that, for getting
Absolutely.
People online and getting them, with bank accounts. Because
there's a lot of unbanked people. Yeah, there's a lot of unbanked people in Africa as well. So that would definitely enhance their payment experience as well.
Super, super interesting. And yeah, because on your profile here on LinkedIn, it's kind of funny because you haven't given a full readout description for each thing for each project you're actually working on. So it kind of forces me to ask you about each project.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can talk about all these projects all day. So yeah.
I'm sure you could. Okay, last one. I want to ask about STIPster. What is Coinect.io?
So Coinect is a platform that's going to utilize blockchain, that they're trying to get. They're trying to get. If you have different jobs, like you want to, for example, get some lessons into learning a new language, for example, they're trying to get people that otherwise, that can teach languages, for example, that don't have a structured platform and structured way of actually going about and finding students. They're trying to connect the two together, and it would be in different areas as well. So it's not just focused on teaching. It's languages. It's maybe like coaching sport or something, or it's a very, very diversified, very wide approach. But they're just trying to connect different vendors and businesses to customers, and cutting out the middleman in the process, make it a more efficient system as well.
I think I got that Coinect is a platform which connects educational providers with students.
Yes,
and
that's one aspect.
Middleman.
Yes, and maybe like coaches as well, coaching maybe different forms of music or art or sports, etc. So along those lines.
So it essentially connects buyers and sellers in the education space without middlemen.
Yes.
Is it pure education, or
it's not just purely education? It can be can be other aspects as well.
So it's essentially a diverse platform that can connect buyers and sellers. That's quite interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So just switching gear again then, let's talk a little bit about ICOs and STOs. There's a lot of talk recently about this. And of course, with you being at the cutting edge and being exposed to lots of information, I think you'd be a great person to ask about ICOs and STOs. So would you like to give a brief background on the story of ICOs and what happened and why we ended up going towards using STOs instead?
So ICOs very much was a phenomena that disrupted the traditional crowdfunding mechanism. So basically, it was a way whereby startups could raise funds and then become liquid to investors in the shortest space of time possible, and without going through all the regulatory hoops. But then the problem with ICOs was because it was very much an unregulated instrument, it was abused by both investors and founders of all these projects that were raising funds. So you had founders that were getting their hands on a lot of money in a short space of time, and then getting greedy and not actually delivering on their promises. And then you had investors who were like, "Oh, this is the easiest way to make money fast." So they were just jumping into these projects without doing their due diligence and homework, and then ended up losing a lot of money. The market started taking a turn for the worst. So it was a great crowdfunding disruptor, but ultimately, because it was used in the wrong way and it was used in different ways, that's why it started to decline as well, especially with the market decline. So now STOs came about in a way such that founders of projects would be more accountable for their investors, and also they would have to give up equity or have to back their tokens with a real asset instead of a token that was issued that was just based on promises and a future use case for the tokens. So now it's very much and STOs are very much based on existing securities regulations. So that's why STOs came about, and that's why they started becoming more popular. And that's what people argue, that sophisticated investors and institutions would arguably start investing in these projects, and projects and founders would use this way of raising capital. But the problem with STOs is that you do need a certain amount of capital before you actually do an STO. Mm-hmm. So you still need to do a seed round and actually give up some equity before you can actually look into doing an STO. So that's roughly what those two crowdfunding mechanisms are.
Yes, yeah, because I actually remember, I think it must have been 2018, early 2018, and I would go to meetup events which would talk about ICOs, and we'd discuss a project and discuss the team and figure out whether or not to invest in a project. And there always was a kind of a layer of background anxiety, knowing that, well, we could all put money into this project, but we're getting tokens out, but then there's a 24-month waiting time before we know if they actually have built the project or if they actually have gone and bought Lamborghinis. So yes, there always was that level of uncertainty with ICOs, despite them being really exciting. And of course, there were some good outcomes for ICOs and some good projects that came out the other end of it. But there also were many, many, many failures and many, many scams. So I definitely appreciate why the movement towards STOs has been such a relief for investors. And also, I think, a step change for the way we invest in decentralized projects. And obviously, I think as well, because of that barrier to entry being the raising of capital and dilution of equity in the get-go, I think that almost provides a kind of litmus test for whether the project actually is good or not. Yes. And I think that that hurdle to overcome, I think, really would separate the wheat from the chaff in terms of projects that are going to be building the next era of our society and our economy. Have you seen any particularly interesting STO projects in the UAE or globally in the past 6 months or past year?
I think in the UAE, the most popular asset class to invest in the UAE is real estate. So I think there are several projects aimed at UAE real estate as an asset that backs tokens. Obviously, they're not established in the UAE as a crowdfunding entity because the regulation is still not there. So, but it's started by founders or people that are based in the UAE or from the GCC region. So I think that's a popular asset-backed token STO project that's coming out here. Globally, there's several projects that are looking really, really interesting, and I believe have good potential. I think one of them that I've invested in very early is and is doing really well at the moment is Securitize.io, which is a security token issuance platform. They've recently done a successful Series A raise, and they're definitely getting a lot of business at the moment, and they're expanding exponentially right now. So that's a good example of a project that I think is doing really well. There's many other projects out there, but I haven't been involved in any of them, so I can't make a judgment on those. But it's definitely a very exciting space, and I think in the next year to 2 years, you should see a lot of security tokens and a lot of asset-backed tokens out there, along with all the benefits that a security token comes with.
Yeah, sure, that's really interesting. And I think, we're coming up towards an hour now, so I think it'd be good to have some final remarks and think about take-home messages from this conversation. And if you were to leave some really key insight for listeners about the future of blockchain in UAE, what would you say? As real key pieces of insight, take-home messages for this movement. What do you think?
I think the key takeaway is to watch out for the next 3 to 6 months of developments here in the UAE, especially with regards to regulation. I don't think I mentioned before, but there is a pilot cryptocurrency project between the UAE Central Bank and the Saudi Arabian Central Bank, where they're going to be testing out a cryptocurrency payment system within the central banks. So that's something that means that both central banks in the region and local banks in the region and businesses and the government here in the UAE are going to be looking to embrace blockchain technology and cryptocurrency payments and cryptocurrencies in general. So I think that's the most important aspect that's going to be coming out of the UAE in the next 3 to 6 months. And I'll be very much focused on the projects that I mentioned that are based here in the UAE. And I will try to do my utmost to raise awareness of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies here, and try to support all the businesses here, whether they're startups or whether they're existing businesses that are traditional businesses that are looking into blockchain technology as well. And I'm very much excited about how things the UAE forward.
That's great, and I think it's a really exciting time for that part of the world. So you mentioned that in the next 3 to 6 months, we're looking forward to some more clearer legal framework set for the use of cryptocurrencies and blockchain in the UAE. And there's going to be a test pilot project which will be using cryptocurrencies with banks. And you're looking forward to supporting some key projects that will come up in the region. And you're looking to be raising awareness of cryptocurrency and blockchain for that part of the world over the next months and coming years. So I think that should be a good place to end the podcast, to end the episode. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a super interesting episode. I've learned a lot from this and a lot about the UAE. Looking forward to staying abreast of your journey and staying in touch. And I think, it'd be good to maybe reach out again, talk again in 18, 24 months' time to see where things are for yourself and for the UAE in the blockchain space. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a pleasure being on the podcast with you today, and I'm glad to have shared my knowledge and experiences here, and to share my plans for the future as well. And it would be good to catch up again in the medium to long term with how things have developed here after this conversation.
Amazing. Thank you, Saeed. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.